So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. As we want to talk today about mobile games monetization on alternative app stores. I think the metaphor about having all of your goods in a single shop, in a single place to sell, is very appropriate. When we were meeting together a month ago, we were talking about malls. If you had some business, do you want to have your business only in one mall? Do you want to pull all of your eggs in one single basket? Is this appropriate? This is something that we're going to discuss today. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Victor. I work for the company Wirecard. Wirecard is a financial service provider company out of Germany with several offices around the world. And let me jump to my colleagues in the panel. Rivai.
Hi, my name is Rivai. I work for MOL. MOL actually has been in the business close to 18 years. I joined MOL way back in 2008, and MOL actually specializing in the online game payment. So actually I see that all the evolution of the game from the PC game, MMORPG, to social game on Facebook, and now it's on the mobile games. And would like to share all this thing about about monetization on the emerging market like Southeast Asia and other countries.
Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike from CashShield. What we do is we secure e-commerce platform or mobile payment platform from fraud, which is a high and a big issue right now. So we're a company that's being built on 2008. We first serve e-commerce player. We see a lot of shift right now from website-based purchase more towards mobile-based purchase. A lot more games online are being played, and a lot more digital goods, which is highly fraudulent, is being processed. So what we do is we use big data machine learning to kind of analyze this payment and decide whether it's a fraudulent purchase or a legitimate transactions. That's about our company.
Thank you, Mike. Tiago.
Hello, my name is Tiago. I work at Aptoide. Aptoide is an Android app store. We had 150 million users using our platform last year, and we generate more than 100 million downloads per month. And we are here at Casual Connect because we already work with more than 10,000 developers all around the world, and we're looking to work with more Asian developers to help you get more eyeballs into your apps and games.
Thank you very much, Tiago. So we have prepared a couple of questions so we can interact. We can share some of our ideas. Feel free to raise your hand if you have something to add to the points that we're discussing. We want to do some sort of interaction with the audience as well. So the first question that we have prepared is, which are the biggest challenges that we have these days, especially publishers, to deploy or launch your mobile games in the market? Who wants to start?
Yeah, I think perhaps I can start. MOL, actually, we're not a publisher, but actually I'm servicing a lot of mobile game developer and publisher. Primarily, actually, it's like a medium to small game publisher and developer. The problem these days is that publisher and developer, they already spend a lot of money basically to acquire game or develop the game, and yet they have to spend tons of money to acquiring it. I understand that these days, I think the user need to get like, not the user, the publisher or developer need to spend like $5 US just to per install, which is the cost is very tremendous. And I think the problem is basically in terms of the distribution platform on the mobile game. Now the two most popular, which we can say is a duopoly, is the Apple iOS and the Google Play. And there's so many of the game on the market. I think this basically contribute from the success of the platform like Unity, which is make it easier for the developer to publish game, and end up that basically in Southeast Asia on globally there's too many of the mobile game content and only two major platforms to distribute it basically. In China, actually, it's a bit different the way I see it, and because there are so many alternate platforms. Like Tencent, like Alibaba, they also have its own platform, 9 apps. So it makes it for the publisher developer to have a lot more choice how to distribute the game. And so it's Asia actually, hopefully, if it can evolve to become more like a China, it will be more healthier, I guess. It will be getting less expensive for the publisher developer actually to, to promote or to distribute the game.
So the Chinese market is more the open market.
Well, it's not really the open market. It's kind of ironic, right? That basically in China actually it's a closed market, but basically the local tech company actually is thriving building out the thing. So if you see that, it's true. It's becoming like a more open market with a lot of alternative for the mobile game publisher developer to distribute their apps. Yeah, it's kind of ironic.
Yeah, so just following on Rivai's words, the biggest challenge from game developers coming and talk to us at Aptoide is how they get visibility in the App Store or Google Play. So Google Play alone, last time I checked, has 2.7 million apps. So it's really difficult to stand out in such a big number of apps. And I also read recently that the projections of a successful app or game today is 1 in 10,000. So imagine this, right? This month there's 10,000 new apps or games, and then only one of those apps or games will be commercial successful. So I would say that's the biggest challenge.
Maybe I would like to talk more about the cost side that Rivai mentioned just now. Yeah, the game publisher has a lot of costs to build the game and then publish it, compete through ads. Then there's one cost that is most likely not being looked upon is the fraud cost, which is where we are here in CashShield, try to help increase revenue. Because right now I see a lot of problem is payment are being made through fraudulent card, or they just stole a card and try to make payment or trying to refund something that they purchased online. And I believe a lot of developer that I meet has that type of problem. So what we do is we're trying to figure out what's the best possible way to kind of mitigate this issue in terms of the other costs or remitting costs.
Okay, we have described each one in this perspective and the challenges that we have. Could you list or could you tell us some of the solutions that you think can help to solve this problem, to make it a more of a even playing field for small developers, for small publishers to make their games successful?
Okay, well, MOL actually, our role is not just in the payment alone. We also have a consumer-facing product, which we call it the MOL Points. And in this region, we have about 5 million active users. These are the users that are making a transaction about once a month. So we also helping all our game partners to expose their game to our users, to our website, and also through our Facebook fan page. And in Southeast Asia, actually, we also team up with a very big POSA gift card operator from US. It's called Incom. I think if you go to 7-Eleven in Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand, you see all those gift cards. Beside the Google Play and iTunes, you also see other game like a Facebook game, even some of the mobile game from eFun. So those POSA cards actually is distributed through MOL. And if you have the game which is very popular and you want to have a better exposure to your potential user or user, actually we can help to expose it on the retail shelf, basically. This is in addition to our site. And if your mobile game actually is like have a competitive nature, like esports or stuff thing, and we could also help out to run the competition for you if you don't have a operation locally. So basically, we see that the mobile game trend these days is actually somehow it's like a start following the trend from online PC game, yeah, with all this multiplayer game on top of all those casual game.
So going back to the title of the panel, right, the third-party app stores, the numbers from App Annie, they estimated last year Google Play generated around 80 billion downloads. Third-party app stores generated 40 billion, okay? So third-party app stores already generate half of the numbers from Google Play. Of course, you can say some of this chunk is coming from China because, as we were discussing, there's no dominant player there in the Android field. But if you think about the numbers of Aptoide, right? If we have already more than 3 billion cumulated downloads in our platform, this gives you an idea of how big can be these markets, so don't ignore the third-party app stores, ours and others. And then in terms of solutions, I'll talk about our own experience, okay? So something we've created inside our platform is a user playlist. So if you think about the YouTube model, when you go to YouTube and you search for some content, you'll find this playlist from user-generated content. It's the same thing in our platform. So when you search for a game, you see playlists of users, of apps and games that users uploaded. So we're trying to use these community features to help users discover content and help developers to be found. So we also have the top ranks, similar like Apple and Google, but then we have this community feature to help developers get some visibility.
Just to add on what Tiago was saying about community, it's interesting because if you look at fraud, traditionally we only look at the payment information, if a transaction is being fraudulent or not. So looking at the duopoly that Rivai mentioned, everything about fraud is being controlled by their side. But as we look at how more towards the fraud, the way in CashShield we look at different data points, and interestingly speaking, one of the biggest data point that's really effective to see is if either the user actually has a social media presence, do they actually have a social network, and if they're actually doing payment. From what we see, if a person is actually active in social media or active in this network, they're less likely to be a fraudster. And if they're actually, trying to make payment, they have no network of social media, they're highly suspectable. So instead of looking at the transaction side, we're looking at the user behavior. And yeah, that helped a lot to understand more about your user base.
Coming back to the point that Rio mentioned earlier about community, I think coming from the, we are, all of us are gamers, I hope, I think, and when we remember from the online PC games time, when we speak about World of Warcraft, there is always a community around the games. There is always a group of friends or guilds that come around the online games part. Is this something that can be also used, the communities features on app stores to make it more attractive for game developers and publishers?
Yeah, I think the way actually I always advise my client, the one that running mobile game, take a look at basically all those PC game publisher or PC game developer. Basically, they created their own site. And these days, actually, a lot of mobile game company, especially the one from China, they already started doing that. It's basically they're creating their own mobile web that basically they're attracting people to come to their mobile web, and basically they give them incentive to go to the mobile web, participate in the community chat. And also, there's a way for them basically to build up the alternate payment basically outside of the App Store. Basically, community is very important. Whenever actually if you're going to launch multiple games, especially, you don't have to really spend tons of money to promote your new game. It's basically you can, you already have a base of the gamers, and you should basically try to build based on that. And whenever actually you have a new game, you just basically to promote all this new game to your community. And this way actually you're going to save a lot of money for the, to acquire your new user, or the cost per install. You can reduce it by basically building up bigger and bigger community. And I see also that mobile game these days start moving into the competition, like esports competition. Some of the popular multiplayer mobile games like Vainglory, I think you heard about it. And also there's many of the titles from China, like Mobile Legends, is gaining a lot of popularity. This actually is quite important basically to sustain the user base through the community for the mobile publisher and developer.
Well, I can just add that we don't, like I mentioned before, we don't like the centralized model. We don't think there should be an entity deciding which apps or games you install in your phone. We have something called, again, it's easier for me to talk about the things we try to do to improve these. We have something called Apps Timeline inside our App Store. And it's basically using the social connection. So imagine if the four of us are friends on Facebook and the four of us are using Aptoide, probably if we are friends, we have the same interests. So if I see that Victor installed a game yesterday, it will appear in my apps timeline inside the App Store. And if Victor likes the game, probably I'll also. So we think it's very powerful, the community.
To add on that, I just saw a link that's been shared by Rivai this morning. The community is so strong, and it actually affects our decision so much that they try to make a dedicated fraud system to fool the people. It's like they make, you know, there's somewhere in China they have a factory, the click factory to, you know, to make as if the apps is actually legit and, you know, a lot of likes, a lot of comments, just to drive the community base, just to make people see if an app is actually legitimate. A lot of people are playing it, and they're paying a lot of money to do that. So in terms of fraud, you know, that can even happen to the app side.
Okay, now we would like to have some questions for the audience. If you can participate, I will appreciate this. Can you please raise your hand on how many of you discover your apps or the apps that you have in your phone by the feature of top rank on the App Store? We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. How many of you get your apps via ads somewhere? Okay, 4, 5. Okay, that's not very good for the guys outside. So how many of you get your apps by recommendation by friends? Please look around. This is astonishing. So the guys out there should be really angry. So how many of you search an app, search your apps via the search function in the App Store or via web in the internet? Okay, this is the second highest. Okay, yeah, as you can see, mostly it's via a word of mouth, which is what we were talking like, I don't know, 20 minutes ago. So that's impressive. So
I'm going to share some stats on this because I think the question that Victor just asked matches what we see out there. This is both valid for Google Play and also our own App Store. 60% of the downloads from our App Store comes via search. And then through a questionnaire, from those 60%, 40% is word of mouth. So it just goes, it matches just what you asked. So 40% word of mouth, 20% is search. So this means 40% will go straight to the FIFA game, and then 20% will search for a soccer game, right, in the search bar. So this just proves how important is the community, right? If you get your community behind your app or game, you don't need to spend money pushing the app. The word of mouth will do the work for you.
It's make your business a lot more sustainable, basically.
Okay, now we move to the next question, and this is something I think that many of you will share. Many developers and users are afraid about alternate app stores because of malware, virus, security issues, especially what happened just this weekend. I guess many people will be a bit scared. How do you address this issue?
Tiago, maybe.
Okay, I start just because you mentioned about the people being scared of apps. So we take this very serious in our company. We've been doing this for 6 years now. So we have our own security platform. We call it Sentinel. So every time APK file, which is the format for Android, every time a file is uploaded into our platform, we use 6 antivirus tools to check if there's any virus. Then we compare the same APK with the biggest app store out there, Google Play, and then we have our own malware database. Only after these 3 steps, then we allow the app into our platform. And then just out of curiosity, we are having a lot of people trying to upload malware content to our platform, and always coming from Russian email addresses. So we were very, the decision we made internally was we just blacklist Russian email addresses. So if you try to create an account with a Russian email address right now in my platform. We just don't allow it. And then for partners like developers that work with, we have to whitelist the email address. It was a quick fix just to avoid malware coming from that region.
So since I'm doing fraud, from what I see is that this malware actually taking a lot of your personal information, not only your payment info, but your personal email and password. Like what you said, this weekend there's a huge breach towards the old Microsoft software that's not been updated. And we see a lot of search and fraud, and especially payment fraud, because these data are especially available in the dark market, and you can even lose your data being taken hostage. I'm not sure if it's in the App Store that can happen, but we see a lot of ransomware going around nowadays. But to tackle on that problem, what we do in CashShield is not only we screen it for payment, we actually screen a lot of different data points. Like I did say, social media, but the other part that's actually important is actually the device fingerprinting. We not only check the IP, but we also check the behavior of the person that's actually making a purchase. If it's actually doing any comment on the social media, if it's actually any behavior that they do outside their apps, we actually need to take everything into account to actually know if a person is fraudulent or not only based on their payment information. Maybe Rivai can.
Yeah, just to add, this one is not really from the MOL side, but actually I got the experience by talking to some of our clients. These days, actually, sometimes when you talk to the agency, they can give you a very good price, like a microcent or sort of thing per install. You have to be careful on that, because many of that actually they're using bot to install your app. And some these days, like all this, they call it the fake advertising network, right? It's try to cheat you. It's very advanced. They're also using AI. So AI is not only used by the good guy, but AI, artificial intelligence, also used by the bad guy also that try to cheat you. So once actually your app is installed and they have a server that actually control the behavior of your app, it looks like basically it's played by the real person, but end up that basically it's all a bot. So you have to do up very careful due diligence when you work with some of the advertising network. If they give you a very good rate, like too good to be true, you have to really, do the more thorough background check on that. Yeah.
Tiago, would you have some information or demographics, if you can share them, about the kind of people that are more open to install an alternate app store from a specific country or age range, or I don't know, studies or telephone device, mobile device?
Well, we're very strong in South America, Europe. Asia, we're growing very fast. We doubled our user base in just 1 year here in the region. And in terms of demographic, if you think about a farmer in Myanmar that just bought a smartphone for the first time, there's a high chance he never had a computer, right? So the smartphone is the first device they have. So they don't have an email address. But when you go to Apple or Google, the first thing they require for you is to create an account. So we see a lot of users installing our app store because they don't have an email address. And that's something unique about Aptoide. We don't request any information from the user if he doesn't want to give it. On the other hand, many people don't realize this, but there's a lot of apps that have been banned from Google Play. Because many times they compete against the core business of Google. So we have, for example, an app in our platform that allows you to download YouTube videos in offline mode. So you can watch YouTube playlist in the airplane. Just in Aptoide, it has been downloaded like 30 million times. So sometimes people hear about these useful apps. They cannot find it in Google Play, so they have to go and search an alternative places, and because they're afraid about the malware and virus, they feel if they download through Aptoide that we've checked it and it's safe.
Okay. Okay, so it's not only related to one specific. It can, like you were saying, it's popular in South America. It's popular in Europe.
Okay,
It's popular
so in more advanced countries, usually, let's say Japan or Korea are not good markets for us. I think, well, first it's very specific market, and then people are big users of Google Play. They have Google Play accounts, so they're not searching for easy ways to install. But US, I'm going to say this, US is our number 3 market in terms of user base. So in that case, it's a more advanced market, but for some reason they're trying to find content they cannot find in Google Play, so they come to us.
So you might say that people that use Play Store, they also use Aptoide.
When we look at our numbers, 80% of our users have Google Play installed in their phone. So they are using us as a second app store, because in our company we don't believe in monopolies. Okay. We don't think it's fair that if you want to buy some music or book, you have several ways, several sources where you can buy this content. We don't think the app business should be in only one hand. That's our vision.
Okay. Then when we're talking about this farmer in Myanmar, if he doesn't have an email, if he doesn't have a computer, he doesn't have a credit card. So how do alternative payments help, could help mobile game developers and publishers in Southeast Asia, where credit card penetration is low and most of them are still using cash?
Yep. Well, this is basically the core pillar of MOL business. Actually, MOL exists because basically we try to bridge the gap between the online and offline. When we started the business way back in the year 2000, a PC online game, MMORPG, those games from Korea, they start becoming popular in Southeast Asia. Most of the users are actually a student, young student, like early teens, late teens. They are still in school and they don't have a credit card. So how do these people actually making the payment for the online game when they do an item purchase? So we work with them basically initially by distributing their prepaid card, and then after that actually MOL building up our own mobile our MOL wallet, similar like PayPal. And this is actually our business already evolving. We are not just focusing on through the retail physical card, but we also integrated with internet banking, and also we work with the mobile carrier billing. Basically, we facilitate the cash payment, whether is it through a retail channel or basically through the mobile airtime. And we also leverage a lot with the mobile carrier in Southeast Asia because they have a very good distribution network for their prepaid airtime. If you notice, actually in Southeast Asia, majority of the people who use a mobile phone, they're on a prepaid basis. It's not on the subscription. I think it's only Singapore that the country in Southeast Asia that majority of the users are on the subscription basis. The rest of the other country like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Myanmar and others is all on the prepaid. So yeah, we try to provide a very seamless channel for the mobile game to monetize their user. Basically, most of the user will not have a credit card. And for example, in Philippines also, most of the people or household doesn't have a bank. In Philippines, we even have a peer-to-peer distribution network through our subsidiary Load Central.
What I know from Taiwan, for example, is that people, they do have credit cards, but they don't want to use them. So
yeah, this kind of interesting that we have so many of the users that basically they have a credit card, but they don't really want to use their credit card because they worry that their wife basically find out that they spend a lot of money on the game. You know, right? Kind of funny that actually when Google and iTunes start distributing the prepaid card here at 7-Eleven, their volume actually is quite big. And most of them that the user actually are people who has a credit card. It's just like basically they don't want the wife to know that basically they're spending a lot on the credit card. And also some of them are like parents. Like for me, actually, I buy the prepaid card and use it for, you know, give it to my son for him to control the spending. Yeah.
It's always the husband. It could also be the wife who is playing and doesn't want the husband to get to know that,
yes, basically.
that is actually playing games. Yeah, in Taiwan it's interesting because people they actually go to 7-Eleven. They have credit cards, but they actually go to 7-Eleven. Well, in Taiwan there's 7-Eleven in every corner, but they actually go to 7-Eleven to make the payment by cash.
The good thing about prepaid also is that basically for a company like MOL, we also protect our game merchant because when you use MOL payment, actually we protect you from any chargeback. And because our payment, the big volume of it is a prepayment, so there's no chargeback or fraud.
So just to add on that, right? If there is no credit card payment and there's only alternate payment, where does fraud comes in? If you think about it, from what we see in CashShield itself, the fraud actually come through the login. Normally, if you buy the over-the-counter points, you already have these points embedded to your account. So how do you do payment is through your fraudulent login. So in CashShield, we have a product also that help to mitigate unauthorized login, because fraud does not happen on the payment side right now. As we evolve to more seamless payment, fraud actually happens at the login page, and that's even more dangerous because if they have access to your account or enter some kind of platform, they can actually use all the points that they have, and it's going to be costly.
Okay. Then we are moving to a point a question that is a bit difficult for everyone, for publishers and for payment providers and for platforms as well. The problem of fraud. And about chargebacks. There was this article in LinkedIn today. I was reading about that merchants or companies that are involved in digital transactions for digital content online are more likely to get hit by fraud than merchants who deal with actual merchandise, with tangible goods. Can you do any comment about chargeback or refunds problems on app stores? I think we have heard that maybe it's relatively easy for a user to reverse a payment and to ask for a refund in the App Store.
Yeah, I was just going around this evening, talked to different people, and this refund problem is actually really, really hitting this publisher hard. Because there's this policy that's being made by one of the duopoly that said, hey, you can just ask for a refund while it's digital goods. They can actually have the digital goods play the game or spend the goods while the publisher doesn't actually get any money. So one of the guys actually are experiencing 10% of their revenue being cut or being spent because of refund. One of it is refund. The other one is chargeback. If people are using fraudulent card, like what you said, digital goods are highly susceptible to fraud rather than physical goods. The fraud rate is actually double. If we look at physical goods, their normal fraud rate is from 1.5 to 2% of their revenue. If it's digital goods, it can go to 3%, 4% easily. And Visa itself has some kind of threshold at 3%, then you're going to get fined. And the way we handle this is we try to approach it differently. In CashShield, we do things through machine learning, because we know these fraudsters are actually using big data, machine learning. They're getting more advanced, and doing manual review of every transaction is not going to be enough. So what we do is we help protect this e-commerce by actively updating our algorithm, understanding how their behavior even better. And on top of that, what we do is we try to provide chargeback guarantee in case of fraud, and we hope by doing that we can even help this publisher monetize better, rather than spending their money on costly goods such as refund or chargeback. So
the idea is to prevent the fraud to happen, like before you analyze the behavior of the user to avoid these potential issues with refunds.
Yes,
regardless of which app store it is.
I agree. Yeah, that's how we kind of do it. Maybe if Tiago want to add something, or.
Okay, I'll just add in a quantum of refund. At MOL, actually, we don't provide refund. So if people mistakenly spend their MOL points on a certain game item, basically what we do is, yes, we talk to our game merchant, basically to reverse it, and we top up their MOL points balance back. But we don't really provide any refund in terms of monetary refund. Personally, actually, I did try out how easy it is to refund, basically to reverse the payment. I'm using a iOS software I tested my son actually playing a FIFA, and he spent about like a $5. Then the other day I called the Apple customer service, told them that, look, my son is spending $5 without my authorization. And it's just immediately, no question asked, it just reverse the payment. I got the payment back, but he's still enjoying all the in-game item. I think the big problem here is that some of the big platforms, basically they see it like, oh, it's a virtual item, so it costs nothing. Well, for the game developer, if the game is developed and published by the same company, perhaps it costs nothing. But a lot of publisher, basically they publish other people's game. So the developer actually working with the publisher. If the publisher, the thing got frauded, there's a complication when they talk to the developer that this is part of the fraud. So virtual items doesn't mean like it's nothing, basically. It's still something.
But fraud, this kind of fraud is also a headache for finance and for
exactly,
people
right?
in charge of this. So let me just recap. We had the first question, which were the biggest challenges? The biggest challenge is to make it that your game is seen, that is highlighted.
Discoverability,
there is discovered. The second question we have is which solution you thought that could be to help this. We're talking about community. We're talking about
and more alternate app store.
Alternative app stores.
Yeah. The better fraud management. And actually, I really like Aptoide's the platform because it's not really easy to build a sustainable third-party app store with sustainable traffic, and it can grow. A lot of other alternate app stores are actually coming to Southeast Asia. The way they grow it is just spend money. But once the money is gone, the advertisement gone, everything is just gone. The traffic is just gone, and that's it. Aptoide, I think, is very a clever way to build the user base, and it's still growing. So, yeah, we try to look how we can work together, basically, between MOR and Aptoide.
And then we go to number 3, and talking about the money that is spent on marketing. I think I'm going to take a risk to say that we all agree that the best money spent is the one that you don't actually spend. So if you have a community that is pushing activity, is bringing new users into your game, and the App Store and the alternative app stores can provide with this service and the payment solutions as well.
And also build the mobile web. If you publish multiple mobile game title, it's a good idea that basically you build your mobile web. You can go to like a Disney and Gameloft. Actually, they have a huge mobile web which has a lot of game title there. Yeah.
This comes from the experience of actual game publishers and that have been doing game publishing for the last 10, 20 years, and they know how to promote activities and engagement with game communities.
Yes.
And then we ask 4 questions, which again was very interesting. And the way how you discover your apps is mostly recommended by friends. That was astonishing. We said that we also asked the question about being afraid of having alternate app stores, and we see that that's actually not the case. That there are people who actually have 2. They have Google Play and Aptoide at the same time.
Sorry, Vito, I just want to add, like, you gave the example of Microsoft, right? One piece of news, like last weekend, you can destroy your brand so much. Android has a huge reputation of being not safe, so we take this very seriously. I gave the example of the Russian email address. For us, it was frustrated because we would see someone create his account using this email address, and then we put some apps with a virus or malware in their account, and then we'll shut down the account, and after a few minutes a new account appeared. So in this case we were drastic because we really want to improve the awareness about Android being a safe platform.
And we also review the point of alternative payment, especially in Southeast Asia, where credit card penetration is low, and how it's related to the example that you were giving about the person who has never had a computer, doesn't have a bank account or an email. And
maybe you'll never have an email. You think about these people, they are truck drivers, right? If you're a truck driver, why do you need an email address, right? They don't have desk jobs like us.
Or they are a bit special, they just want to give their email, or they just want to give their credit card numbers like we were talking about earlier. And the last point was about the chargeback problem, the chargeback issues. That yeah, this will never go away. This will always be there because people always are saying, okay, it was my husband or my wife that is playing this, so or my I don't know my son. So it could be an issue as well that could be solved in a way.
Yeah, this panel talks more about how to monetize, right? People start thinking about different things, how to push it, but sometimes we forget about the cost that you don't actually see until you kind of your active user actually playing, and then there's this upcoming cost, refund cost or chargeback cost that you gotta kind of mitigate, and you gotta actually take control of to know more about your revenue stream.
Especially if you are spending so much money on marketing, you
Exactly.
want to make sure that the money is well spent. Okay, we have like 3 minutes left. Is there any question?
Hi, I'm Benjamin from Viacom. I wanted to ask you about monetization strategy, and do you see in this region, Southeast Asia, for a app subscription strategy?
Okay, app subscription strategy, right? Actually, with MOL, recently we do try. We work with the EA Play Unlimited. It's a subscription strategy, but doesn't seem that actually gaining that much traction. We don't know yet about. It's not really conclusive because the game that actually we put up there is actually an older game. But in terms of subscription, it depends on your product, I guess. For example, like music streaming, like Spotify is doing very well here in Southeast Asia. They start doing well in Southeast Asia actually after they localize the pricing, meaning that basically they apply a purchasing power parity for the country that has a low buying power, like Philippines. It's basically they price it lower than country like in Singapore and Western country. Yeah.
Sorry, if I were just to elaborate a little bit, I meant a app subscription aggregator service. Sorry, a subscription aggregator service as well.
You mean basically it's like an app store subscription based user, it's a buffet style basically, right? They can play multiple games.
Yeah, something like that. I think like the Netflix of a game company.
I see. I think so far no one has launched it yet as far as I know. But I believe if Amazon have that service, but they have not launched it here in Southeast Asia yet. So I cannot really answer that whether it can be successful or not. I believe the way that the Amazon business model, they charge basically the way that they rev share with the game publisher or developer is based on how long actually the gamers play their game. Yeah.
Maybe Mike can talk more about it.
Not my panel. Not my panel. We do have another question here.
Very interesting. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on the future of alternative app stores. I'm thinking that, if you look at China, where there's a proliferation of app stores simply because there's no Google Play, seeing what's happened there, and there were some that bubbled at the top, and a lot of them that developed very bad reputations because of piracy and other issues. But I think what happened was that the ones that bubbled at the top ended up getting acquired by larger companies, so there was some consolidation. So what is if you could gaze into your crystal balls, I'd be curious to know what are your thoughts on the future of alternative app stores?
Okay. From my point of view, perspective, not from the payment side, but from, I used to work in a game publishing side, it's all about the user base. If you have, if there's a company that is able to amass a large amount of user base coming, and I'm looking at telecoms probably, that already have access to telephone numbers, and they do a good job, and they look at it's pure speculation, from the point of view of a gamer, they can create a nice, interesting product on their own. Sounds difficult, that sounds tough. I think they may be able to make it. I think if there is a company that has access to a large amount of users, yeah, like Facebook is doing now with the latest product, I think that it's doable. But there has to be a company with access to a large amount of people.
As I mentioned before, we don't believe in monopolies. So, like they were mentioning, there's Amazon App Store, there's Aptoide. We think the consumer should have a choice in deciding where they source their content, same as they do for books or movies or whatever. In our case, for Aptoide, we try to differentiate ourselves from the traditional Google Play store. So I mentioned about the no need for an account to use us. Something we just launched very recently is a feature that we named it Spot and Share. And this feature was actually inspired by my trips to Myanmar and India, where I saw that peer-to-peer apps are very popular there. So people are together in a cafe or something, and somebody tells about this game, and there's no internet connection to go and get the game. So this feature, you create, with one phone, you create a hotspot, Wi-Fi hotspot. Then your friend connects to that hotspot, and then you can pass all the apps and games from your phone to the other persons. So this is just one example of us trying to do things where we see there's a pain point in Google Play. And we believe that users should have a choice to go and get apps from Amazon, from Google, from Aptoide. It should not be only one app store. In the case of Apple, they're always very, from the beginning, right? They said there's a closed ecosystem, I control everything, but Android is an open platform. So there should be several players playing that open platform. That's our vision.
I think it's also something to do with the development, game development. These days, basically, one of the big challenges for if you're a publisher or developer, that you're running the same game on the multiple app store is that you need to have a different apps, right? I mean, for Android, let's say you distribute it in a few different apps, different app store, then you have to have a few different versions. But these days, actually, it's much easier to create the game using the Unity platform. I did talk to my friend at Unity, basically whether the platform like Unity can make it easier for the publisher developer, basically to manage their apps, their game app in a multiple platform. If they're going to make it easier and easier, I think there will be less resistance for game publisher developer to distribute their apps in a different app store. I think it's like a chicken and egg type of thing, basically. But it's for the benefit of the industry. I want to see that there will be more app store in Southeast Asia. And I think the chance for the emerging market like Southeast Asia to have multiple app store will be greater than more advanced country like US and Europe.
Yeah, sorry, this is something when we met the first time a month ago, we were discussing that maybe there is a hidden gems hidden somewhere in the deep. How many games you said were per month that you were saying this is a very good game, but nobody can find it because they don't have the budget, because they don't have money to buy all the advertising. Yeah. So yeah, there needs to be.
I like the analogy that you mentioned in the beginning of the shopping mall, right? So you have the big shopping mall from Google Play, the big shopping mall from Apple, but don't ignore the small shops. As I mentioned, this is data from App Annie, it's public. Half of the downloads on Android are already coming from alternative app stores. So if you're a developer, you should not ignore these channels. For example, again, talking about Myanmar, it's a market that we've been good for us. If you go in a shop and you buy a smartphone, the salesperson will spend so much time teaching the buyer how to create an Apple account or a Google account. So we have a partner in Myanmar that is working with us because they tell the salesperson, as soon as the person asks, how do I get my apps? They just point to us. Oh, here, no questions asked.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much. And yeah, here we are later for some questions if you want to talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Victor, guys, thank you very much. Thank you.